You're listening to the Daily Drive Book Club,
a leadership audiobook experience where two leaders turn their commute into a classroom.
I'm Vanessa.
I'm Yanet.
Sit in traffic with us as we drive, learn, and lead together.
All right, well, I-95, 3 right lanes blocked before 8:36. Woo, we're going to be on here for a while.
Okay, so let's get into our latest book, which is No Rules Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention by Reed Hastings and Erin Meyer.
Beautiful. Let's get in. I have 2 words. I know you always ask me, like, hey, can you recap this book? This is the strangest leadership book I have ever read. And I would say freedom or structure. And to me, that's the topic here. Do you want freedom or do you want structure? And instinctively, most of us would say freedom. But I'll be honest with you, when you start listening to this book, you're like, I don't know if I want freedom. Just kidding. So this book is definitely different, and I'm going to kick it back to you.
So the book is about Netflix culture. Netflix famously has taken a very radical approach to office culture, I guess you could call it. They have a philosophy of freedom and responsibility. So you give a lot of freedom to high performers and give them the freedom and the space to do what they want. And then you also place the responsibility on them to do it well. And so we'll get into the details of that. But as I said, Netflix was famously known for taking on this radical approach to culture. And so the book is the CEO, Reed Hastings, and he wrote it together with a professor, Erin Meyer, interviewed him and others to understand not just from his perspective what the culture is, but those who are living in it as employees of Netflix. So that's the overview. So let's start with what hit for us. What stood out?
I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to start with chapter 10. Probably the last chapter stood out to me. I think chapter 10 stood out to me because rounding everything up, culture is very important. It's not only the culture you build at work, but it's the culture that we bring to work. And Netflix is founded in the United States, right? And they have all this freedom and candor and really calling each other out respectfully, as you said, very radical, but they quickly learned in all the countries around the world, this cannot be used. And we have to respect people's cultures and integrate them into our work, because this is a team, this is not a family. They made it very clear. However, they did wrap it up at the end and discuss that people's innate culture is also important. And so everything we're going to talk about, I wanted our listeners to know that.
I think the whole book was, I was like, what? Oh my God. So I think a lot of things hit. I thought it was really exciting. There was a moment there where I was like, I think I want to work for Netflix. I just thought it was a really interesting, different perspective. But then, as you were saying, as I got into it, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how this could work. But their whole foundation, as I said before, is based on give the people freedom and then give them the responsibility. But the precursor to all of that was having the right people.
That's right. We're back on the bus.
They said, right. They said, you cannot do any of this if you don't have the right people. You can't give that freedom. You can't give them that responsibility unless you have the right people. And part of the way that they get the right people is by paying top dollar and sometimes above market. And so while that's wonderful, not every place can do that. So while I thought it was a really great concept, how applicable is this to, well, nonprofits for sure, but even your average company out there? Not everybody is in a position to be able to do that. So if you can do it, I think it's amazing. But again, I don't think everybody can do it.
So let me tell you a story. He calls it talent density. And by the way, I think the CEO is a genius. He found this method to his madness by mistake. Unfortunately, in the early days, he had to make a very tough decision to let go. I don't know if it was like 60% of the staff. Him and the head of HR really sat down, and it was one of those .coms blow ups or whatever it was. And they really, really had to decide on their top talent. Not only their top talent, as in your genius, but also how well you worked with others. Because you can be an amazing individual contributor, but you're a jerk to others, and they didn't have the room for you at the time because they were going to have to be so lean. And that is where he discovered that, yes, at first it was extremely difficult. He did not take this lightly. It had to get done. But then he noticed that because all of them were high performers, new things started building, new things started coming to fruition. No one was afraid to create because these weren't the people that were going to ask for permission. These were the people that are going to ask for forgiveness. So that's where he started building this framework. And you're right, if you have high density and talent density, is what he calls it, then it leads us to the other one, which is if you're not that guy, you get a package and they walk you out the door. And that luxury, I don't think a lot of companies have, and some companies might not want. But at Netflix, there is no mediocrity. At Netflix, you can have errors and you can fall flat on your face, but you have to have more wins than losses. And if you're not good and you're not at your top of your game, you get walked out.
Yeah, and that's even on their webpage because I went and looked. They have their culture memo, and in the culture memo, it says, I'm paraphrasing, but it says, we don't do mediocre, we don't do average. And if you're average, you're going to get a nice little package and be on your way because we only do high performers here. And
Right.
I thought that that was amazing. And then their other motto that they're well known for is, we're not a family, we're a team. I think the idea there is a lot of times people in an office is like, oh, we're a family, we're a family. But really, in a family, you love everybody and everybody's a value, even if not everybody is pulling their weight because they're family and you love them. But he's saying here, we're not a family, we're a team, and every team member is expected to pull their weight and perform at their best because if they're not, they're going to get benched or cut from the team. And so
Right. And
everybody's got to be bringing their A game every day.
And he did say, because the criticism has been, well, you're building a culture of sharks, which, by the way, I still think that there has to be, and they said different, and they say candor, and we're going to get into that. But you throw me in there, and it's going to be like stab people in the eye with a smile and some candor. Okay.
Right.
So I don't know. I know how to read between the lines. To me, though, he did mention that because people like me that are doubting the culture, he says, remember, in a team, yes, you're expected to do your best, but it is a team. You're also supposed to work with the guy or the gal
Right.
next to you and raise them up as well. This cannot be, it's mine, all mine. No, it is a team. And you're responsible for yourself, but you're also supposed to bring it for your team.
Yeah, I think that was important because it's bringing it for the company, for yourself. But then, like you said before, you have to be able to work well with others because if not, you're going to be disruptive to the work that's happening across the company. And again, I think it's a little radical for the average place, but I still think there's an element in there, the concept of we're a team and you got to bring your A game. Everybody can have an off day, but if you're coming every day, getting on the field and not giving it your best and
Mm-hmm.
getting in the way of others doing their best, then you're going to have to get cut from the team. And I think that piece, without all the radical aspects, cutthroat aspects
Mm-hmm.
of it, is powerful.
It is cutthroat. It's definitely cutthroat. The keeper test, oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah,
the
talk about
keeper
that.
test. So, I mean, it's just, would I keep you? If I had to cut X, like he had to cut, would I keep you? And the people that you keep, if I had to cut three and you would be able to like really push us forward and that kind of bad economy or something failed or whatever, he would ask his managers all the time, well, the person that you're thinking about, will do the keeper test. I'm sure there's more rules to his keeper test, but they did say that causes stress. It's
Right,
like you have to ask your manager, am I a keeper?
right.
And, I mean, this is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's
This
definitely
is
not
not
for the
for the
faint of
faint
heart.
of heart. And then I got home and started looking at my kids like, are you a keeper?
I hope the answer was yes.
And the dogs, everybody. I'm like, bueno, I can, maybe that one could go, but this one I have to keep.
That's good. That's good. Let's talk about the radical candor piece of it.
Okay, radical candor. It had rules. Do you remember the rules?
I don't remember the rules. It was a 4A step system, which again,
Right,
I'm going to preface by saying they kept saying in the book, you cannot do this unless you have that talent density, high performers who are responsible. You can't just let a bunch of mediocre people start having radical candor with each other, right? So it has to
right,
be high quality employees that you trust. And then that candor and the feedback has to follow a certain pattern. And I don't remember all of the elements, but I know it was things like the intention that you come
mm-hmm,
with it. So, it can't be that you're giving feedback in a gotcha kind of way or to point out somebody's failing. It has to
mm-hmm,
be about improvement. It has to offer advice.
right,
It has to offer how do we improve this. So, it had a specific structure
right.
for that
And there's
piece.
a lot of training that goes into it, into their
Yes,
candor. They actually train and retrain the managers in candor
right.
because they know it breaks norms. For example, there's some of it that is so radical that in the middle of a presentation, someone can tell you, hey, take a breath. You're going too fast. You're too nervous. In the middle of your presentation, yo me muero. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And it's also cultural. There's no doubts here. We're both Hispanic. Real life culture. Like we were raised with respect and we talk to people one on one. They did learn that candor in other countries has to be one on one. If they're in Japan or Brazil, it has to be a one-on-one type candor. It can't be in a room. I can imagine a room full of Brazilians. They're gonna stomp on you if you come out with some of this radical candor. So it does have rules. It cannot be attacking, even though it could feel like attacking. And they even have live candor meetings.
yeah.
That was too much for me. Listen, the whole part of a high performer, I have confidence in my performance and I would thrive. I believe in that kind of environment. However, all the real deep candor that they do, I'm not sure I can handle it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
Because somebody might get a chancleta to the face. That is the PG version
we,
of what
just,
I was thinking.
we just recently read and had a discussion on the children's book about kindness and love.
Yeah.
Don't be coming at me with no radical candor because you might get a chancleta to the face. So, yeah.
But you know what? Talk about candor and kindness, right? Taking this to the recent book that we read. You can have more candor with people with kindness and respect. And you've told me that you come at people from a place of respect and love, but tell them the truth, right? And that is important. Sometimes we don't tell people because we think they're going to hurt their feelings. And this could be a colleague or this could be someone that reports to you. But I'm going to challenge us to have more candor, maybe with a little more kindness than they would, and never in the middle of a public meeting.
I think that the stronger or the harsher the truth, the more you have to dial up the kindness and the love and the respect that goes into delivering the truth. So
Hmm.
I think that you have to make sure that that's balanced. The other thing that stood out to me that I loved about the book and I did feel is something that you don't have to be a top performing tech entertainment company to do is the idea of context, not control. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, but I want you to talk about it.
No, that was the part of you can't just loosen controls and not give context. That you have to give the context. And then I don't know if you remember about leadership being a tree, not a pyramid. But
The
people
tree, yes, I do remember.
think of leadership as a pyramid where the leader's at the top and everything trickles down. But they were saying that it's actually a tree where the leader's at the bottom And the departments and all of that are like the branches that go out.
What I remember about this part, and this was really important to me because I I have worked somewhere where onboarding was really, really important. And it reminded me of this. It said that the leader is at the root of the tree, right? Because the root is what gives you all the information. It gives you your guardrails, your background, the problem, really lays it out. So if there are any mini rules, because they do have some little mini rules in the no rules rules, right? The boss has to spend more time at that beginning stage explaining things to you. And to me, that's part of onboarding, that's part of sharing where we're going, right? But then the boss stays down there, and then everybody else goes, and each department is a branch, and everybody takes off.
Right.
That's how I understood
And at
it.
each level up the tree, branching out, there's more context.
Yeah, at the top is a subject matter expert. If you are the expert in children's videos in Japan, right? You're making that call. So from the bottom, your leader gave instructions, everybody could work on it or whatever, but you're in charge of this. This tree, the guy at the top, which is not the leader, is the subject matter expert, could be 4 or 5 people under the leader. This person will make the call to invest 500,000, $3 million into a movie or into a show. There's some checks and balances, but no real rules. That person can sign that contract. And that was eye opening. I said to myself, oh my goodness, you're the subject matter expert. You're the one that knows your market, but you could be 28 years old and you're signing that $5 million deal.
Right. Right.
Your leader's not going to sign it for you. You're going to have all the information that you need, right? But ultimately, it's your freedom, your call.
Right. But your freedom within the context that has been set from the root and up
Yes,
to the leadership. So,
freedom has to have a real rhythm,
right. Right.
real rhythm. And is this the one? And for one movie, the guy asked that, is this the one? You know?
He was going to spend more on one show or movie than had ever
One
been spent before.
documentary. Yeah, one documentary.
And he was like, "Is this the one?" And he was like, "It's the one. I really believe it's the one." And so he was like, "Go for it." And he went for it.
And ultimately,
At first it
and
wobbled. And he was a little nervous, but then
yeah,
it hit big, and it paid off. So, but they were
it
prepared.
won an Oscar. It hit big and it won an Oscar.
Yeah. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to say about what hit?
I think that freedom comes with responsibility. I think we've known this since probably we all watched Braveheart in the 90s, right? Freedom comes with responsibility, but they really put their money where their mouth is when it comes to freedom and responsibility.
Yeah.
That you can make those calls. Again, it's in context, but you can make those calls. I think that's really important to mention.
So we touched on this a little bit, but let's call it out more specifically. What didn't hit for you?
What didn't hit for me is that this book is for like 1% of the population.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing that they were able to do this and sustain it and grow it. I just don't think it's realistic for most companies.
Right. Yeah.
I really don't. And I'll be honest, they did talk about the fact that they are in the creative innovation space.
Right.
That if you're in the safety space, so that they do have a couple of pockets in their company that it's not no rules. You know what I mean? When it comes to legal,
right. I think they had the example of hospitals.
yes,
Now you still want top performers, right? But you have to have layers and layers of protocols and regulations in order to make sure that everything is safe. So yeah, it's not for every industry or every company.
right, right. So to me, that was it. I guess it was radical enough to open your eyes because it does hit home on some things that as business people we have seen throughout our lives. When I was a youngin, when I was a young woman, I was a lot less kind. I really was. And I didn't have the interpersonal skills that I have today. If you were mediocre, I would tell you to your face. That candor part, it was like, oh my God, you're mediocre. Get out. Like, I just wanted you out. I didn't know what to do with you. I didn't want to grow you. I just wanted you out. And now I see it differently, but I still feel that leaders have to pay attention to their teams. We might not be able to have that high density, everyone is an ace. Because, by the way, even on teams, I come from a baseball family, like, we like baseball. You have an ace, an ace. That's your pitcher. Like, that's your ace pitcher. Not everybody can be an ace. This made it sound like everybody on the team has to be an ace. Hello, people would kill each other,
Right.
but it makes you think. It makes you really look at your teams, and it's, do you have the freedom and responsibility? Can you afford to really keep people that might be bringing down your team just because you don't want to make the hard decisions? Hard decisions should be made. There's no pleasure in them. Zero pleasure in hard decisions, I'll be
Right.
honest with you. But if you have someone, and this goes back to good to great, if you have someone that is hurting your team, how long are you going to let that fester where your high performers are taking on work that that person should be doing? So, yes, we cannot replicate what Netflix did, but it absolutely can influence us. I wanted to ask you about what are the things that perhaps you can implement.
Well, I have already begun to implement two things. One is the whole concept of the culture memo and setting the context. I'm doing those two separate things. I'm focused on setting the culture and setting the context. So I already went and created my own version of the Netflix memo for my team, outlining what are those things, how is it that I want us to move as we do this work, and making it really clear about what my expectations are of the team and how they work individually, but also how we work as a team. And then also making sure that as each project launches or each new opportunity comes our way, that I'm setting the context for the members of the team that are working on it on what my expectations are for that project or for that opportunity. And so those are two things that I've already begun to implement. And you?
I don't think I've implemented anything just yet from the book. I'm still digesting. We read a book before, which was probably my favorite that we've read, is Multipliers, right? So I was very excited because I'm building geniuses. And then when you read Netflix is, okay, never mind, we're firing everybody.
Right.
So I was like, oh my goodness. But I think through my lens of creating geniuses, I'm implementing to myself in my leadership some of this candor, some of this ensuring that they know that they don't have to agree with me. But that's how I thread it back to multipliers, which really is more my style. Because being kind doesn't mean I'm nice. So candor is definitely there. I'm here to make them better because I do not have the freedom to fire everybody and build this kind of culture. Nor do I think it's healthy. I'll be honest. I thought it was a bit much. So I think I'm working this book within myself, putting it through the lens of multiplier because it is very intense. I definitely, the giving people more freedom is important to me. But I think every leadership book we have read is about that. I think letting people know that it's okay to fail, and we forget all the time. I think I'm pretty good at that, but continue to remind them that it's okay to fail because some people come from leaders that never allowed them to fail. If you're trying things and some things might just not work out, as long as it's not detrimental to the business, that's okay. We're going to learn from things as long as we learn so that it doesn't happen again and we share what we have found. Something in this book that was similar to, I want to say something in 3M experiment from Leaders Eat Last, which is you made a mistake. Now you're going to go talk about it. Like you have put a sunshine on it, which was also nerve wracking, but I really actually like that part. It's
Right.
like we fell flat on our faces and this is what happened. Don't put it under the rug. And every book we've read is you can really really learn from your mistakes in life and in business.
Yeah, we're definitely not saying that we don't like candor, because I think, again, anyone that knows either one of us knows that we are pretty candid people who say what we feel and
Mm-hmm.
mean. But, it just feels like it's constant all the time. Like you said, they have specific meetings just for people to give each other candor. Like that just felt a
Um,
little over the top. I like my
yeah.
candor more natural and occasional.
And she didn't interview any Latinas. She did a lot of interviews, but there was not one Latina.
You talked about the culture before. Tell that story about the guy from Brazil.
Right. There was a gentleman from Brazil. It was his first day on the job. Everybody was coming in, sitting with him. And in Brazil, it is bad manners to have someone eat alone. That during their lunch is when people get to know each other a little bit. And at Netflix, they get to know each other a little, but it's more work. It's a lot more work than play. It's not like they're going to have lunch with each other. So first day that he comes to the United States, they sit him in a conference room. Every like 30 minutes, someone comes in, and then it's lunchtime. And he figured, well, my boss will come have lunch with me, or he'll send me somebody that will have lunch together. Instead, a very nice woman came in, asked him what he wanted for lunch, or brought him lunch and a dessert and everything. And she walked out and left him alone. And he felt so defeated because to him, that was a slap in the face. He spoke up, which actually candor helps in this. He spoke up and told them. That made it all the way to the CEO.
Right.
And so now when they bring people from Brazil and or other countries that might have similar backgrounds, they make sure that they have set up a lunch meeting, but they still didn't interview a Latina. I still struggle with that because candor is candor. We can have all the training we want, but we're a different breed. I might have a day like, listen, please put the candor in a box today. We can talk about it tomorrow.
Right.
And I am not the one.
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to ask you your billboard quote.
My billboard quote is the core of everything, which is that we're not a family, we're a team.
I should have thought of the billboard. I think it's around freedom. Freedom has consequences. Freedom has consequences. And they're not free. Freedom isn't free. There you go. All right. My billboard is freedom isn't free.
Perfecto. And what's your rating on the book?
Listen, it's a good book. Nothing against the author. And I think the CEO rocks. But I would give it a half tank because it's not replicable in most places.
Yeah, we're always in sync. I also was giving it a half a tank for that reason too. I mean, powerhouse book, powerhouse ideas, definitely a good read. So the half tank rating does not equate that I don't think people should read it. I'm just giving it a half a tank because I just felt exactly like you said that a lot of it was not replicable for your average place. But it was inspiring and it made me think about a few things. And again, I can't do all of this, but what can I take out of this that I can apply to the work that I'm doing with my team to create an environment where we are all high performers? And I love this podcast so much because we just ended and I just pulled into my parking spot. And I had a lovely ride to work because we were chatting about wonderful things to make us better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just drove in myself. So I think this is it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for more books and more fun mini episodes and everything else we have coming. You can find out more on our social channels. Is there anything else I have to say?
No. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
That's our commute for today.
Got a question, a book suggestion, or something on your mind? Email us at thedailydrivebookclub@gmail.com.
Show notes for this episode are in the description.
Thanks for driving with us on the Daily Drive Book Club.
Keep driving, keep learning, keep leading. We'll see you on the next one. And by the way, no laws were broken during this recording.
That's a whole other podcast.